and my roommate, when I got home, she knew that there had been a senior in the group because everyone else was younger. And she said, what about that senior? And I said, oh, he just got dumped and he ate his lettuce funny.
I remember one year we're going to get our taxes done, or I'm doing my taxes ourselves because it wasn't too complicated at that point. And I'm like, this says we owe $7,000.
Moving 5 times in 2 years is really bad for your marriage and your taxes.
I remember walking into a grocery store in Inglewood one day, and I'd gotten to know the security officers at the front door. And he looks at me and he's like, what are you doing here? Get in your car and go home. He goes, do you not watch the news? Do you not read the papers? You are the wrong color guy to be in town today. Get out of town.
So Eric and Angel are in college, and Eric eats his lettuce funny. Tell us about that.
You're going to have to tell the story. You're the one who said it.
Well, I was out on a date with one of Eric's freshmen, and Eric jumped in and went to dinner that night with all of us. It was a big group. It was great. And we were all together, and my roommate, when I got home, she knew that there had been a senior in the group because everyone else was younger. And she said, what about that senior? And I said, oh, he just got dumped and he ate his lettuce funny. And that was it. Like, I didn't think another thing of it for 2 weeks.
We should have brought an example, some salad, and demonstrate what it means to eat it.
He always cuts his lettuce now. I promise he always cuts his lettuce now, y'all.
My problem. I fixed my problem. So I don't think she could tell you. I mean, the dating wasn't super serious on the date she was on.
Oh, no. It was just it was a friend.
So I got his permission to give her a call. But what's kind of funny that nobody here would know is in the core at A&M, so he was a freshman. We don't know any of the freshmen's first names. Everybody goes by Fish, whatever. So all I have is a roster, and I've got no idea what his first name is. So it says Edward on the thing. His name was Edward Scott Mullins, but he went by Scott. I didn't know that. So I called her. I got his permission. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I give her a call? So I called up and I left a message, and I was like, yeah, Edward said it would be okay for me to call. So she's going to have to pick up from there because she didn't know who Edward was either.
Well, what happened was that another roommate, the roommates are plentiful, as always in college, another roommate took the message, and she's a very emphatic person. And she told Eric, she said, I promise she will call you back. And I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I have no desire to call him back. I don't know what you were talking about. She's like, you have to call him back. I gave my word that you will call him back. And I'm like, he said that Edward Mullins gave you his number. And I finally went, Scott? Scott gave him the number? So I called.
Yeah, and so we went out. I mean, we hung out, and then we went out for ice cream.
Yeah, we had a first date, but we jumped the gun. I don't want to say pre-gamed because that has bad connotations, but we pre-first date our first date and went out for ice cream.
Yep. Then we went on our first date, and then things kind of, I don't want to say accelerated from there, but there was definitely a connection, and we could spend time talking about first dates and everything like that. I don't know if all of that's super funny. The one thing that always cracks me up in our story is that we were going, I guess were you going to meet my dad for the first time? We were driving from College Station to Austin, and she had just come home from a funeral, and she was telling me about an interaction she had had with her uncle. And again, we've known each other for 2 weeks maybe at this point. And I was like, oh, your uncle's going to think I'm an idiot. And she says, well, my uncle knows I would never marry an idiot.
It was totally Freudian.
And so, and I think I was taking you to meet my dad at that point.
I know.
Anyway.
So when did that conversation start about marriage?
Then.
Wow.
I don't know. By 6 weeks, we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew. Yeah. But we had a really long engagement.
I think part of the problem, too, that really kind of comes to play in here, I came from just enough brokenness of my mom dying, and we didn't talk about this, it's not too much importance, but my parents had separated. There was a whole lot of kind of messiness inside of that, and so, it's not fair to Angel, but I was looking at, she kind of had this idyllic, perfect family, and I was that's what I was hoping and aiming for, and so there definitely was, a lot of God bringing us together, but it was also that I brought a lot of baggage to situation that made it harder. And with my dad's bankruptcy, I know that she got quite frustrated because my life's ambition was to be wealthy because I thought money would solve the problem. And so, I mean, there were times. Did I do it before we got married that I brought all the magazines?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you did.
Why don't you tell this story?
So, Eric, this is no shock to you in no way, shape, or form because you know Eric. But he decided he was going to like make a book of all the things he dreamed of. And so he went and got like these car magazines and boat magazines.
He's a visionary.
and I mean, and he's like 22 at this point, okay? And the Rob Report, is that
the Rob Report? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what the Rob Report was. Just so you know, this
Do you know what the Rob Report is?
I don't know what the Rob Report. No.
The Rob Report is a magazine of all the fancy, wealthy stuff that's out there. I'm sure they still publish it. I don't know.
I don't know what the Rob Report is, but I do know what the Rich Report is. You should check out our website and get the Rich Report. It's in the description. Back to the show.
You should, and it's completely different than what Eric was doing. I have to say that. Anyway, so Eric was cutting out these pictures and talking about what her life was going to be like when we were rich. Oh, and I hated the word rich. Not Carson, but I hated that Eric wanted to be rich. You know, like that was not, I didn't feel like that was a sign of contentment. I didn't feel like that was healthy. I didn't care for that. But obviously there were lots of things that I did love, right? But I was not comfortable with the desire to be rich.
So I want to ask a question to both of you right now. It's at that point in time, say it specifically, how did you define success? So it seems like you define success as...
Yeah, title and money and... Accolades and... stuff that I perceived that they couldn't, I mean, if I'm going to define, like stuff that I perceived they couldn't take away from you, you know, that you could go achieve and they couldn't take. Yeah, I think that's.
Because so much had been taken away from him,
right.
You know, so.
So your perfect family really helped shape your view of contentment.
Yes.
And the deeper
I would like to
things
point out my family wasn't perfect.
Right.
Still
That's why I
isn't
said
perfect.
In Eric's perception at the time.
Yes, I didn't realize until a while into it that was part of the thing, that Eric saw that perfection. We're quoting all over the place, people. If you're listening in your car, there is no perfection. So I just have to say that my family just taught me, I just wanted to live a life and love people well, raise children, to love Jesus, to love the world around us.
Yeah.
And that was really my desire at that point. Would you say otherwise?
No. I mean, and so I graduate from A&M. I go off and I got a job working for Fidelity Investments in a pretty thankless job, and it wasn't anything to do. You say I was working for Fidelity Investments. It wasn't too much to do with investing. I was more kind of doing a back office administrative job, running a calculation on one of their money market mutual funds every single day.
He didn't know what he was doing. He knows what he was doing.
Yeah, today I could tell you what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing.
He's just doing math.
And within being there, like it was right before we got married, they came in and said, we're moving the entire operation to Merrimack, New Hampshire. You can come with us or you can find another job. And so we went up to Merrimack and we looked at the possibility of moving there.
It's the only place we've ever said no to. Sorry, New Hampshire. We thought it was beautiful, but we went in January. And
the sun goes down at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can't.
And we were like on this bus going on the interstate, and it was icy, and the bus was sliding backwards. So we just had this impression of maybe this wasn't the life for us. But the little villages and driving around in the snow, it was really pretty.
And so then I went back to a job that I had applied for with General Mills, trying to because I had a degree in agricultural business, and I'd worked in a grocery store in high school, so I'm like, well, this will fit. General Mills makes food and things like that. And so General Mills, I went to work for them in the sales department, and that was a hard job in that it required me to travel quite a bit. I had to go around to a lot of different grocery stores, but they had a reputation for moving people. we didn't know this too much at the time, but that then starts a string of moves that we moved 5 times in 2 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And
And like different states.
yeah, I moved from Dallas to Lubbock to take that job. We were in Lubbock for...
And give us a timeline. So you graduated.
Okay, so I was thinking we did kind of skip over some stuff.
Go right ahead.
So Eric graduated it was August? August of
96.
'96. I was still in school, and he went to look for a job. It was very hard to find a job. We were very grateful when he got the job for Fidelity, and it was through a connection from a friend. Thank you, James. And we were really grateful for that. We got married in December of that year. I had just finished my coursework, but I wasn't finished with school yet. And I was student teaching in the Dallas area. So that's why he was looking for a job in Dallas, because I had a student teach in Dallas. So I student taught in Dallas, and I graduated in May of '97. And then Eric had already moved to Lubbock by the time I graduated, right?
Right around, yep.
And so then I went and met Eric in Lubbock, and that's the first place we lived. Well, we did live in Dallas a little bit together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While
I was student teaching.
Yeah, while you were student teaching, we were married, and I was working for Fidelity, and you were student teaching. And then I got my job with General Mills, and I moved to Lubbock. And then you came and joined me. And if you're going to have to timeline, you're going to have to help me. And we were in Lubbock for 6 to 8 months.
I think 8 months.
We're in Lubbock for 8 months. We moved to Southern California. We're in Southern California. She accepts a job teaching. Again, I'm working for General Mills. It was an interesting time because my territory was Compton and Inglewood and everywhere the LA riots had happened.
And they had just happened. Well, I mean, recently.
We don't need to get too deep into it, but I remember walking into a grocery store in Inglewood one day, and I'd gotten to know the security officers at the front door. And he looks at me and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I've got an appointment with Joe." He goes, "Get in your car and go home." He goes, "Do you not watch the news? Do you not read the papers? You are the wrong color guy to be in town today. Get out of town."
Oh, wow. I've never heard this part of the story. This is great.
I didn't see anything. I didn't run into anything.
Yeah.
But one of the things that taught me that really, really stayed with me was that people are people. So you can be in a community, like you could be in Inglewood, you could be in Compton. I mean, I had a grocery store in Compton. And I'm like, these are just people trying to go to work. And then you get the news and everyone else trying to talk bad about the people who are there. And I'm like, man, that 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And so from really being able to love and see people for who they are authentically, that went a long way and played a big role in that.
And that seems like it's been a consistent theme in your lives since you were young, as you're describing. Like just really loving people and meeting people where they're at and not being, I guess, presumptuous.
Yeah.
You know, that's beautiful. So within the first 5 years of your marriage, you've moved 5 times. Is that accurate?
Within the first 2.5 years of our marriage, we moved.
So how does that impact a young couple, a young marriage, newlyweds?
I tell Eric, the worst thing you can do when you first get married, hey, move away once, right? But moving 5 times in 2 years is really bad for your marriage and your taxes. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, so we had spent a lot of time, so I'd accumulated a lot of debt in college, so we were really, really focused on paying off debt. So when I went to work for General Mills, they gave me a company car, so we sold my truck and we paid off a lot of our debt. We were paying down. We were doing everything that you're supposed to do, putting the 10% aside just for savings. So we're building up savings.
Things the 10-10-90
yeah.
rule. Yeah.
10-10-80.
Yeah. 10-10-80, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're doing a great job.
I'm not a math guy.
You're fabulous, Chris.
We're doing a really good job following all of that. So I think it's worth just kind of walking through everything really quickly because I do want to kind of get to, there's a transition in job coming that really starts to then define my life. But so we land in LA in Orange County, and I'm working there, working in Compton and everything. But within 2 weeks of us being there, they announced, hey, we're shutting this office down. We're shutting an office down in Northern California and an office in Salt Lake City, and we're moving everyone to Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, and by the way, in 2 months, you're moving to Salt Lake City to help shut that office down. and we're transferring you to the Salt Lake City division. So you'd have to tell the story. You resigned a job before you signed
a contract. So I have to say in this little part that I had an aunt who was a superintendent of schools. And when I was at A&M, the way that I found my passion for people and loving people who are different from me, or, we're all the same, but you know what I'm saying.
I understand, yeah.
Is that my aunt said, "Oh, Angel, look at this little spot. You have these elective credits you have to use, and you can do anything with those elective credits. And you need to get an English as a second language endorsement. This will make you marketable." And what I found within those classes and those people and the environment was my passion. I found a passion for international people or people of different cultures. And so, but she was actually really, really right that made me marketable. So I went to Lubbock. I got a job right away. We moved to California. I got a job right away. And Eric is correct. I was working. I hadn't officially signed a contract. And they came in and they said, "We need numbers for next year. You need to let us know if you'll be here next year." And I had to turn in a letter of resignation before I officially signed a contract. So, and then I got a job in Arizona. I actually taught in 3 school districts in 3 states in 1 calendar year.
Wow.
Yes. So we're talking, this was moving very, very fast.
Yeah, so we went to Salt Lake City for a few months, helped them shut down that office, and then we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And all of that gets to be important for a couple of reasons. One is what I started to recognize. I had friends who were in the military. Okay, so at A&M, I'm in the Corps of Cadets, and so I've got friends in the military. We're moving
much more,
than my friends who are in the military. And I started looking around, and you were talking yesterday, there were families there who had moved.
I think so this was like an executive preparedness model. Like they start you at the bottom, they put you through every job so that you have experienced everything. It makes total sense. Mm-hmm. But every time you moved up a job, you moved. But the impression we had received initially was that at some point you max out, But we knew people that were young married people that had children who had been with a company for 13 years and moved 12 times. And I looked at Eric and I said, this is fun and young, and I'm excited to embrace life and winter in California and summer in Utah, basically, like all the things. But let's be honest, is this the life we really want? It was stressful.
And so
was that a hard conversation?
No, he was miserable.
No, because what I recognized was that the model inside of, and I'm not saying it couldn't be anywhere else, but it was the model inside of the sales department at General Mills was, in order to get ahead, what you do is you stab the person in the back who's ahead of you in order to pull yourself up and leverage yourself ahead of where they were. It was a very cutthroat.
Yeah.
I mean, not only were the moves, but it was very cutthroat. It was very... and so what's sitting in the back of my mind and going on, one, I'm not happy. Moving 5 times in 2 years was exhausting. Financially, as Angel said, the company would pay for our moves. Well, guess what? They didn't withhold enough taxes for our moves. So I remember one year we're going to get our taxes done, or I'm doing my taxes ourselves because it wasn't too complicated at that point. And I'm like, this says we owe $7,000. What is going on? So we went to H&R Block because what do you do?
And I'm not sure they knew much more than Eric, but anyway, carry on.
H&R Block did our taxes. They're like, well, you owe $6,500. I'm like, okay, so you found $500 that I couldn't find. Great. But so all the money we had, I told you we were doing a good job saving. All the money we had saved and everything we had done gets wiped out because we'd moved 5 times in 2 years. And the payment for the move.
The taxes were really, really bad.
The taxes came due on those moves, and I had no idea.
It was the taxes for 1998, if anybody really cares.
So how did you guys process setback like that with your faith? And like, where were you in your faith at this time? And
I was angry.
Yeah, Eric's still mad at God. But, I was just really grateful we had the money to pay the darn tax bill.
I mean, if you want to talk from a faith standpoint, I think this is an important thing you and I didn't think of. We moved to, so I grew up Church of Christ, and I had a very, very real conversion experience at a camp when I was growing up, baptism and everything. So then we joined a Baptist church in
Lubbock.
Well, College Station was the one where the pastor was really. The Baptist church had a rule in which you need to be baptized in the Baptist church for them to accept you as a member. And
So you couldn't come by letter or something like that.
But I wasn't baptized in the Baptist church. I was baptized in Church of Christ, and but I had a conversation with the pastor in the College Station.
I think it was Scottsdale.
No, College Station accepted me.
Oh, okay. I see.
The pastor in College Station was like, okay. I mean, he and I went to coffee, and I'm like, look, it was very real. It was underwater. It was the full dunk. It was
full submersion, huh?
We didn't
no
sprinkle.
sprinkles.
No sprinkles. I mean, it met all the qualifications except for it wasn't Baptist, and it was outside. And he was like, okay, then I'll accept your letter. So everything was good. We get to Scottsdale.
Yes.
And the pastor there is like, nope, wasn't a Baptist church, doesn't count.
And that was crazy because we were coming from another Baptist church.
Yeah, we had even, we skipped over this. This is important too. When we were in Lubbock, we had an incredible experience at Bacon Heights Baptist Church.
It was a great young married class. Loved it.
And they accepted my letter at that point. So I've now made it into 2 Baptist churches with no problems.
I haven't heard this language in a long time about moving your letter. Like, this is old school church.
But this is because it was... But this was part of the things that was forming his opinion of church.
Right.
Right? Like, so this is one of those things where it's the legalism is not seeing the heart of the matter. So that's why it's important.
Anyway, but just a real quick tangent. When they would write our tithe check, you can share the story.
Yeah, so we were in our little young marrieds class, and we're all talking about tithing, and someone, one of the Hollies, I believe, was saying that whenever they wrote their tithe check, on the 4-line, they always wrote, "Thank you, God." And I was like, yes. Yes, this is the best idea ever. I love this. This is a tangible reminder that this is a gift from God, that this is not our money. So that's true. Every check always says, "Thank you, God," on the 4-line for the tithe checks.
Anytime we write a tithe or a giving check, it says, "Thank you, God."
It's beautiful.
On there. And that came from Bacon Heights Baptist Church, who accepted my letter. So we get to Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm going to adopt that, by the way.
Please. And everyone there.
I would say it's a beautiful reminder, and I love it.
So we land in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm like, yeah, I was talking to the pastor. I'm going to transfer my letter. He's like, well, have you been baptized in a Baptist church? No. And so we start going through Scripture, and I think the other thing that really frustrated me is, like, if you just show me where it says in Scripture I need to be baptized in a Baptist church as opposed to baptized, I'm all for it. And he couldn't show me, and this is going to sound terrible, I went ahead and got baptized out of spite.
Yeah, it wasn't a good place.
And so if you want to know where I was spiritually, I was angry and I was mad that I had to follow these man-made rules in order
Rightfully
to be
so.
considered.
Oh, yeah. Like, he was totally legitimate. And I told him, I was like, don't do it. We can attend this church. We don't have to be, quote, members of this church. There's, what's the difference? But he capitulated, I would say, is the best word. Yeah. And I wasn't real pleased.
And so that's going on, and at the same time, I'm not happy at work. And I had a professor in college who told me, he was like, look, promise me you'll go get your MBA. Promise me that no matter what, you'll go get your MBA. So I had been studying for and taking the GMAT, and I got accepted to Arizona State's MBA program. And the dean of finance calls me in and says, hey, can you come in and sit down? Let's talk about, you're going to come into the MBA program next year. He's like, I like to meet with everyone. Let's sit down and talk about your program and what you want to do. So I went and sat down with him, and he's like, tell me about you. Tell me what you're passionate about. I'm like, well, my dad filed bankruptcy, and I really want to help families kind of avoid what we went through, and I really kind of am passionate about educating people about finance and helping families come together around finance. And he looks at me and he goes, Eric, he's like, you don't need an MBA, you need a job. And I was like, what? He goes, here's my concern. He goes, I see what you're passionate about. He goes, you're going to come in, you're going to go through my MBA program. You're telling me you're going to take on debt to get an MBA. In 2 years, you're going to leave and you're going to have an MBA, but you're going to go get the exact same job I could tell you to go get today.
Wow.
I know. I was so grateful
for
this
That was very
man.
Authentic advice.
Right?
That's awesome. What a great mentor.
I know. And how amazing that he chose to meet every person before they entered the school.
And so I turned down my MBA offer.
I think we deferred it.
We deferred it. We deferred my MBA offer. And then I just went and I started reading everything I could read on what it was like to be in the personal finance business. And a lot of it was discouraging because a lot of it was like cold calling with success and sell your way to the top. And I was like, this isn't about helping. This is about manipulating. And it really kind of bugged me. And I interviewed with a lot of the different firms that are out there, a lot of big names. Some of them have been sucked up into other names that are out there. But over Christmas break, we were on our way home, and on the bookshelf in the bookstore was Charles Schwab's Guide to Financial Independence. And I consumed that book like nothing.
Like candy. He loved it.
Yeah. So I want to say this from a millennial perspective. I'm so just impressed with the fact that both of you understood your purpose at such a young age. And I'm seriously, and I find that that's not as common anymore, that people can get to their mid-30s and still figuring out, like, what am I supposed to do? So your love for education and your cultural intelligence and meeting with different coaches and educating different coaches, and your love for helping families and relationships and finances. So I just want to acknowledge that.
What I want to know is whether or not it's easier to see looking backwards, or if we had that much foreknowledge.
I would say we were just swimming, baby. Like, you know.
But it seemed like you guys had a focus, like you were going somewhere, though.
Well, this is Eric, right?
Yeah.
Like,
There was definitely a vision.
I don't know that I felt like I was like, I'm on purpose right now. I don't know.
No.
I felt like that.
We were like reaching for things to keep up, right? Like
all I know is that like General Mills was like, this is yucky. This is no fun. And I was going to go get the MBA because that's what the professor said to do. And he's hearing me and he's pointing me in a direction. And I'm like, oh, well, I really like what this guy's talking about in this finance book. So, I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody else out there who's in their mid-20s or 30s. Who's like, I can't figure out my purpose. Like, I don't know if I had my purpose figured out. I just kept chasing after.
And hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I think that we can look back and see how God formed things to create the person. Yeah. Like, I worked at a construction company in college for summers. And I worked with all these Hispanic guys to help them with their insurance. And in the process, I saw people for people. And I saw problems as problems. And so that shaped my cultural viewpoint, right? So that's the deal. It's the hindsight. So don't be discouraged. Just keep swimming, people.
And so come to find out, one of the secretaries at General Mills, her husband worked at Charles Schwab. And so he got me an interview, and I got an offer. And so you were running through the numbers yesterday, and I think it'd be worth you running through the numbers. I took a $20,000 pay cut and lost the company car to go do this.
He was making decent money.
Yeah, it wasn't about the money. I was making decent money at General Mills. But what did you figure out? What percent? Was it like a 40% cut that we took?
Well, by the time Clayton was born and I stopped working, we were living basically on 35% of what we had been living in before, anyway.
So I took the $20,000 pay cut, lost a company car. To make up some of the differential they had, if you would work overnight, they would pay you a 10% shift differential. And so I would go in at about 2 o'clock and work till about, I think I worked 10 days or 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts, like till 1 or 2 a.m. Or maybe I went in more like 4. I don't remember the specifics. All I know is that when it was 5 a.m. in Orlando, we were handing them the call center, and so we were shutting everything down, and that's how the rotation would go. But so I'm doing that, and I'm like finding that like I'm in a place that I'm really good at this. Like I remember being I was still in training, okay? So in training, they do your training and then they assign you to call center teams and people answering questions on the phone. And I'm on the phone watching a seasoned representative answer a call, and he starts giving the wrong information to somebody on the phone. I'm in training. And I'm like, put the client on hold. It's like, let me take the call. And I got on the call and I gave the client the correct information. And from there, I started to kind of be a little bit of I got some notoriety around the call center just because I knew what I was doing, which is pretty rare, I think, for a lot of people, unfortunately, in those positions. And so I started getting a lot of favor. And so what then began to happen is Charles Schwab had always been, if you want advice, you need to go somewhere else. We're just here to be your brokerage firm. And they were just getting in the business of giving advice. And so they started an advice department. And I was like, ooh, that would be really cool to get a job in the advice department and being able to kind of help people. It starts to push me in the direction. Everyone in the advice department had 10 plus years of experience. At less than a year at this point, right? And so in the middle of the night, sometimes you'd go 5 to 10 minutes between a phone call because it's the middle of the night. Everybody's asleep. So we had games on our computer. So some people were playing games and, waiting on the phone to ring. And I am like, this is before firewalls and everything else. I'm like, well, they've got a training department here. And so I got into the training department and I just started doing all the training in the advice department in between calls. So when I went into the interview in the advice department and they're like, hey, everybody here has 10 years experience. Why should we hire you? I'm like, well, I've done all your training and I think I'd be really good at it. And they took a chance on me.
Wow.
And so it was that ambition and then just recognizing that God had put something on me, that an anointing inside of the financial industry, that this was where I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to do. I think the one thing that never went away was this ambition of owning my own business.
Yeah, that was always there. Because as many problems as Eric Steady's had, he had owned his own practice, So that was something.
And so there was always a desire to be a business owner. So at one time we were, just so that put this out there.
Oh my gosh.
We were looking at putting a pizza franchise.
No, we were not. We were not doing any of this.
We were looking at putting a pizza franchise near Arizona State University.
Eric was looking at putting.
We also were looking at putting, do you remember the Mad Scientist franchise we were looking at doing?
Yeah, Eric was looking at that too.
So I was constantly looking at businesses or franchises or other things like that. But then my finance career started to take off, and I think that started to mute more of that. But again, there was this constant underlying theme, which will come up more when we get into the next episode, I think, of really this desire that financial security is what we need. We had taken the pay cut, and yes, things were going okay because I was in the right area, but there was still an ambition of I need to be making money, and I need to be making more money than I'm making right now, because right now that money, God, right? Money's going to take care of you. Money's going to, that's one of the things. It's an idol. It's an idol. It's one of those things that we, talk to a lot of people about, is that unfortunately what we do is we start to, what we don't recognize is that we're replacing who God is. In his role, we put money in that role. And, we think money is our provider, and money will heal us, and money will take care of us. And those are all things that God's supposed to do. And we put money in that role. And I was definitely stuck in that cycle. But at least I was in a place I was being favored. And that carries us all the way through. Even we get through Y2K.
Oh, Y2K was so wild.
The end of the world, huh?
End of the world. Well, the end of the finance world. What they said that all the technology was going to stop working at midnight.
At 1999.
In 1999. And so Schwab and all the financial institutions are like, hey, we've got to protect ourselves. So we got told, it's like, don't plan any Christmas vacation. Don't plan any New Year's vacation. You guys are working for a month straight, 7 days a week. And it was crazy. They were bringing in food. You'd hit the Coke machine and a Coke would drop out. They had everything working. But I remember New Year's Eve, 1999, I'm sitting in the call center working and watching
the clock tick.
Watching the clock tick and watching New Year's celebrations happen all over the world. And everything was okay. But it was a wild time because it was a month straight of no days off. And it was what it was.
And I thought it was crazy was that you worked all that time and everybody was working all that time, but y'all were really working. You weren't just sitting. Everyone was calling, what's going to happen to my money? What happens whenever this? And so they're telling everybody, oh, we've got a plan. This is going to be fine. They don't know if it's going to be fine. They have no idea. And Eric's just like on bated breath, as it's turning over. And then there you go. It worked.
No, it was okay.
Yep. So you guys survived Y2K, and then also the rapture of 2025.
We've done both. We've done both, y'all.
So
survive both. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So last question, because what I hear in a lot of this story, this portion of the story is sacrifice. I'm thinking about young couple moving around a lot, but also late night, early mornings of working. Mm-hmm. How did you guys process that?
Not well.
Yeah. Well, I think that I don't know that we need to spend too much time here, but there was also just kind of one of the real blessings of working overnight is that there was a guy who was on the radio while I was going in that was really helping people start to understand their identity and who God had created them to be. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that I was broken. I knew that I was in a place of just not feeling mentally or spiritually healthy. And so I went and saw him. And then Angel came and joined me for part of that counseling. And that started to really kind of help me understand who I was truly in Christ outside of religion. So we'd ended up leaving the church and...
well, we made a poor choice. Here we go. If we're talking to people and we're saying, don't make our mistakes. We were going to a church 45 minutes from our house. Well, that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be actively a part of that fellowship when it's
so
hard to
far
get
away.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We liked the space, but it just didn't work out.
Anyway, so and after my frustration, we slowly just kind of left that church, and I was angry and frustrated, and so we're not in church at this time. And then this counselor, I got engaged with him and started reading through and understanding truly who God had created to me and started getting some healing. And then we got connected to a church in Arizona, which is still probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, the other church was in Arizona too, but
I'm sorry, in Mesa, Arizona.
Yes, so we started going to Central Christian Church, and it was a beautiful fellowship, and it was very different from what we had seen before, which was so wonderful. So.
And very accepting and very just understanding of identity and calling, and so we started to get plugged in there, and really started to kind of find our place and understanding who God was and how he was using us. And that becomes a beautiful part of the next story, which is I think where we'll kind of pick up next time. But Angel gets pregnant with Clayton.
Yes.
And we start running the budget. We were living on less, and I'll just kind of lead with this. We were $200 short every single month.
On paper,
when we did the budget and we cut everything out.
It was because I was going to stay home with Clayton and not work. And that was what we were trying to decide. Can we physically, actually, financially do this thing? Because it had always been the plan.
And at that point, too, it's right about that exact same time we got introduced to Crown Financial Ministries, which was the Bible or money from God's point of view. And just for a little bit of a preview, what you guys need to know is going in, I kind of had this idea. I was like, oh, so this must be the secret genie formula of how you get rich, because certainly there's information in God's word about how you use the Bible and that to get rich. So that was...
We're still trying to get rich over here. One of us is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because, I mean, this false belief that money is protection or money is the thing that'll take care of you. Really kind of defined this season, and it's coming into the next season that God really his provision started to show up, and the reality of who he is and what he is, and our ability to let go and trust him started to grow more.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys again for sharing your story, because I know I am enjoying it and learning more about you and the why behind who you guys are and the impact that you're having even today. So I want to invite our listeners to continue on this journey in this specific segment of the Kingdom ROI podcast as we continue Angel and Eric's story. All right. I hope you enjoyed listening. And if you have any questions about Eric and Angel's story, if you want to comment, please feel free to email us. You can email me at chris@kingdomroi.org. And maybe we'll add that to the segment next time just to answer some questions.
AMA, Eric and Angel.
That's right. All right. Y'all have a great day.